also thought she was very interesting in here. Blinkers on, not a high percentage move for this barn, but the sample size isn't that big.
No.
So, I assume she'll be, if not on the lead, very close to it.
I had a theory for that. He used to work with Broberg. Broberg is still one of his owners. They tend to put blinkers on a lot of horses they claim. Mm-hmm. So maybe the reason that their percentage is so low is they do it a lot. Whether the horse really needs it or not, they just do it to make a change, and then they take them back off if they don't run well. But, yeah, for a trainer that wins a lot of races, in fact, he won 2 last night, it's a small sample, but it is a big offer.
Yeah.
Race 2. This is a good one. 5-ace on turf. By the way, we are fast and good, as you can see on the screen. Main track fast, turf good. Race 2, maiden claimers, $20,000. Scratch the 7. Bad Boy for Life, and they're sprinting 5-ace on the turf. I like this race. I'm going to try to beat the morning line favorite. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I like Covet quite a bit. I made her 8-5 off what appears to be a bad race on the main track after basically a 2-year layoff. But that 45-4, when you correlate it to the final time, that's a pretty fast contested pace, cutting back from 6-5. Back to a surface. She only ran one other time on turf, and that was a terrific race around 2 turns for Hall of Famer Bill Mott. Recent works, have been very good here at Lone Star Park. 48 flat, 49-3. Obviously showed a lot of speed in that dirt race. If you believe he's better on turf than dirt, which obviously Bill Mott did, then she's going to be tough to run down. She was even money last time out on dirt, which at that time was an unknown surface. Now back to turf, dropping into a maiden 20. I don't know. I think she's going to be tough to beat.
I was amazed that she comes back after a 2-year layoff in a, like you say, in a turf sprint or in a dirt sprint, and was even money in a maiden special race at Houston. Now, it only had 6 horses in it, and that the winner, Mammut, was a first-time starter, who I think was a little bit of an upsetter. He did stop pretty badly in that race. But, like you say, he was up on a very fast pace, first race in 2 years. I think he's clearly the one to beat. I just don't know if he's the world's most reliable favorite at what might be a pretty short price. Yeah. So I'm going to go with Night and a Quarter for Todd Fincher, number 9. First time on turf. Last time out with Keith Asmussen up at Oaklawn, drew an inside post. There was a contested pace. The other pacemaker dropped out of sight, and he wound up on a 4-length lead in the upper stretch. Yep. Obviously blew that, wound up 3rd. But, he was getting the blind staggers, but he didn't stop as bad as Covet did. Now, of course, he was coming back off a little bit of a layoff, but not as much. I'm going to hope, he's worked a couple of times, or he hasn't worked since, sorry. He was working pretty well going into that. He was working a hole in the wind, actually, going into it. It hasn't worked since. I'm going to hope second time off the layoff helps him and I get a little bit better price.
Yeah, and the one Gypsy Mischief, Charles inside for Asmussen, Stuart Elliott. Bred for turf, has never tried turf yet, but he's a 4-year-old colt with good early speed. Yeah. And, again, he's never run this abbreviated of a distance. So I think it's a pretty nice race. Yeah. I'm just banking on Covet preferring turf over dirt.
And a real X factor could be your 4th pick, my 3rd, Gimme a Who. New Mexico bred, first Lasix, first time on turf. That $10,000 NC race that he was in last August at Albuquerque was a trial for the Rio Grande Senor Thoroughbred Futurity. You don't see many Thoroughbred Futurities anymore.
No, you don't.
Which he ran in and ran 5th out of 8. So I'm curious to see how he takes. Joel Mars won a lot of races, but he has 0 for 9 here so far. I'm just curious to see how he runs. Race number 3. We've got a couple of scratches out of the 3rd. Small enough field now that it is a no superfecta race. 6 furlongs, filly maiden special weights. Scratch the 1, Sense of Awe, the 3, Bling It.
Yeah, it looks like Christabel, I already have her heavily favored on the line, and just off 2 second-place finishes, I like that both those second place finishes. She didn't go right to the lead and quit. She had a nice, stalking trips. Was heavily favored twice. Some people might call that a concern. To me, it's too early to think she's the type that's going to hang every time. This looks like a pretty suspect group. I mean, my second pick, Sister Honey, hits the board an awful lot, but that last race on turf wasn't very good, and that concerns me only because her previous turf races were actually quite good. So is she tailing off? I mean, I'm not certain, but I think she's going to be a relatively low price. I didn't really want to pick filly. I think might be tailing off a little bit right now, and the rest of them, it's hard to make a strong case. Fincher had a horse with a lot of fast works last week and didn't run that well first time out. He's typically really good, though, but, it is a New Mexico bred. It's not a Kentucky bred. So Christabel just kind of fell back into my lap. I got to give her one more chance because she just looks like she may be too talented for this group.
Yeah, I think so, too. I mean, she'll be a heavy favorite, but I'm not afraid of her at this point, being one of these that is going to be a long-time maiden. Matilda's Mark is my second pick, the 6 for Todd Fincher. I looked her pedigree up. Her dam, Roll On Matilda, won 3 of 6, made $155,000, was a non-graded stakes winner, and did win at first asking. So, take that as it is. I think maybe a new face might do something in this spot. On to the 4th. We've got a video to show, and it's not the easiest video to see. I would have shown the pan shot, but unfortunately the incident happens kind of late in the race. What we're looking at here is Gracie's Kitten, who is once again going to be the favorite in here. She's in the middle of the circle. White blinkers. She's a gray mare, black cap on the rider. Now, what's going to happen is this is a turf race, April 18th. When we roll it, she's under left-handed encouragement, and she will move out into Wild Steel, who is also in this race and is drawn right alongside of her. Wild Steel is 1 from the outside. If you look to the left of the screen, she has blinkers on as well and black silks. So let's roll it. You'll see Gracie's Kitten, under left-handed urging, drifts out right into Wild Steel. Wild Steel's rider loses both his irons and finishes the race that way. And then Gracie's Kitten comes on. As you see, she's still trying to get out a little bit. And winds up running a really nice third from off the pace. Now, the issue with Gracie's Kitten is she seems allergic to winning. I mean, she's 1 for 25. She used to be with Mike Maker. He left her here last summer with somebody else. She was kind of a disappointment. She ran a really nice race. But I'm trying to beat her with somebody that wasn't in the video, Mighty Enticing, but we'll talk about her in a second. Wild Steel's race was much better than it looks on paper because she was nearly dropped in the stretch, and she was making a nice bid, too. And, by the way, Gracie's Kitten was disqualified for that action. But so I've got Gracie's Kitten second over Wild Steel, who I think is going to could run a much better race than it looks. But anyway, tell us about Gracie's Kitten because, her form is pretty good. I just wonder about a mare that just you can't seem to drag her across the line in front. Now, saying all this, I'm probably guaranteeing that they ring the bell after the win.
Well, we'll see. That is a concern. She's 1 for 19 on turf with a lot of seconds and a few thirds sprinkled in. She did finish a pretty good 4th in the San Jacinto Stake before that race where we showed the video, beating only 1 length on that day. She was even money in that race, and she didn't have the most perfect of trips, though it was good enough. Caldwell's going to win a lot of races as well. Diaz should know her well. I'm always a little surprised when a jockey's ridden a horse that much and still will hit him left-handed. And if she shied away from it clearly and moved over a few paths. I'm hoping he's learned a lot from riding her now for the 5th time, and I don't know. This was a tough race for me to go against her. Sometimes I just go for the best horse. I know that sounds too simple.
Well, no.
But
I get into my head and sometimes overthink it. So sometimes just go with the best horse and move on.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I tend to do, unless I feel like they're vulnerable, and then I love picking against the favorite. But other than her attitude about winning, which is that's a legit reason to pick against her. It's interesting you picked the 9 because I was wondering why Stuart Elliott was on the 9 instead of County Slugger, who looks a little better on paper.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons. County Slugger was the horse that I told you about a couple races ago, was just minding her own business at Houston around the clubhouse turn, laying second, and the pacemaker shied from something, slammed right into her, and they both lost their riders. And unfortunately, Jose Alvarez, who was on the other horse, is still out from that injury. Came back, and County Slugger ran a pretty nice race last time behind Peak Earnings and ran a pretty good second while well beaten. But Elliott, I got to even note here, Elliott riding number 9. That leads me to think, and of course Eric Asmussen's in Baltimore today at the Preakness card. So, the mount's open on Mighty Enticing, lightly raced. She's a 3-year-old, taking on older. By the way, these are Texas bred, first level allowance on the grass, mile and a 16th. I don't think the distance is an issue. Her Beyer Figs don't compare to Gracie's Kitten or some of the others in here. But I think she's improving, or might be at least. She comes out of a restricted filly stake at Houston on the dirt. 2 races ago, in an off-the-turfer, she did beat School Teacher and Wild Steel, who are both in this race.
Right.
I don't know if she can beat Gracie's Kitten, but I'm going to try. Elliott's riding so well. I think he's going to be able to get her in a comfortable spot off the pace, keep her in the clear. We'll see.
Yeah, I was going to pick County Slugger, and then I saw Elliott went to the 9. County Slugger, those 2 races you mentioned, were an open company. Even though they were condition claimers, don't be misled. A condition claiming 30 open is every bit as good as the one other than Texas bred. So County Slugger, lightly raced, He may have just ridden your horse because it's Asmussen. I mean, who
Could
knows?
be.
Which would make this horse even more live, But Mindy doesn't ride Juarez a whole lot. And
she does ride
a lot of success
Elliott
either.
a lot. So,
he usually gets the live ones.
Yes. So we'll see.
Either Steve thinks he's live or, that's a part of gambling. I mean, it makes it fun.
By the way, we mentioned Eric at Pimlico today. You and I both watched this race. Rodney Nelson reminds me he became a graded stakes winner today in the Grade 3 Maryland Sprint with Booth, trained by his dad. So congratulations to them. They were nice winners in that race.
Yes.
Race 5, 7/8 of a mile. Texas bred, bottom level maiden claimers. Scratch the 2, King of Grace.
Yeah, this is the absolute bottom. You don't get lower than 5,000 maiden Texas breds. High Plains Hunk has run some races. Not a fan of his consistency necessarily, but he's run races that are just a little better than these are capable of running. One at Houston, finishing second in a maiden special weight race, finishing third in a maiden 10 open at Houston on March 29th. Last time out, he's 7-5 at this. Finally dropped to this level for Jade Geldner, and horse, just fell apart late, going this distance of 7/8. Maybe it was a surface, but he ran pretty good on a good surface at Houston. I just think he's a bit of an in-and-outer coming off a weak race. He seems to always rebound off a weak race and run a good race. So I took High Plains Hunk just off that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I couldn't take anybody else, in all honesty.
Okay.
He can be in and out, but hopefully his on race should win this race. So, I went with that. There's a couple of 0 for 18s that I've got slated in behind him, Xander S. and DeVito. So
yeah, Xander S. He's a front-running route horse, and for those that don't come out to the races much, that's generally the type of horse that likes 7/8 of a mile sprinting. But again, 18 chances. That's
a lot.
That's a lot of chances.
So on to race 6, 3/4 of a mile. $35,000 optional claiming price here, or you could be a non-winner of 4, or you could be a non-winner of a race other than maiden claiming starter or state bred this year. So a lot of ways to get into this. Scratch the 6, Blue Light.
Yeah, I mean, J.R. Caldwell, I felt like he was going to win the race. He had the 2 best horses in here, the 6 Blue Light, the 7 Too Much Action. I don't know why he chose one over the other. I mean, it ends up Diaz, his go-to rider, was already on too much action, which makes you, assume, he's the one to beat, and then he scratches blue light. So I think JR felt on entry day too much action was going to be tough to beat in here. Maybe he wanted the race to go, too. I mean, he just wanted to make sure. Sometimes they enter two, just making sure the race goes, and they scratch one. But anyway, this is a really nice horse, a stake winner at Houston, this season. Has never finished off the board at Lone Star Park. I'm talking about too much action. He's now 6. Very nice win percentage, 9 of 26. It's the only category where he doesn't run well is on a wet, sloppy, muddy track. He's 0 for 5. On a fast track, he's 9 for 20, and by the 6th race, I have no doubt will be a fast track.
Well, technically, we're fast now, but I'm sure we'll be harrowed and regular by then.
Oh, yeah. So, that said, I just feel like Caldwell, had the call, 2 sharp favorites, and now he's got, it's got to be the logical favorite in here now.
Yeah. Oh, I love Too Much Action. I'm trying to beat him with Gun Flash, but Too Much Action is just an outstanding Texas bred. One of the best Texas bred sprinters just within T-Bred Company in my 10 seasons here. He can win against Open Company as well, but I think as great as he is, as much as I love his style and he loves to win, I think maybe a guy like Gun Flash, and the thing that attracted me to Gun Flash is that work tab. I mean, when you see Abel Ramirez Rodriguez work a horse like that, I mean, this horse is training like a true stakes horse, and he did run 5th last year in the David M. Vance. That's a really good 100-grander sprint on Oklahoma Derby Day at Remington. And this guy reeled off some pretty good sprints at Oaklawn. I mean, you'd know those horses a little better than I would, but those $130,000 one other than allowances. And he, his last race was a mile. It was obviously a disaster. He was, out on Central Avenue, basically, with being wide the whole way. I think getting back to a sprint with that work to have 6 works since his last race.
Yeah.
8-1 on the line. I'm going to take him. As much as I love Too Much Action and respect him, he can beat this bunch.
Yeah, but his best race, he definitely can.
But
he was really good at Remington, really good.
Yeah, and Too Much Action can beat this bunch too. But I think he's a little bit more of a superstar against T-Breds. But that's a good race.
I do want people again that don't come out often. We scratched a 2-1, so everybody's odds are going to be much lower. We're taking a third of the pool basically out. So, you can expect Too Much Action to be much shorter. Gun Flash will probably be more like 7-2, and et cetera.
Yeah, and Classic Moment, who comes off a nice turf sprint here for Ramirez Rodriguez, his odds will be depressed.
Yeah, he's won 3 in a row, and we didn't even mention Classic Moment.
He's good.
Yeah.
On to race 7. A mile. Scratch the 1, Gold Macon Girl. This is an interesting race. Also scratch the 12, 13, and 14. All older fillies and mares drew into this one. Lots of them coming off little short layoffs in here. This race, to me, I mean, we both took Araniti. She's a nice mare, and I think she's kind of the main speed in here. This race, though, it's a really interesting race. If you like somebody other than Araniti, I'd say go for it, because this is, with these little layoffs involving a lot of these, you just never know who might fire first time back.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I did, again, go with Araniti, who's quite versatile. I mean, if you look just at our last 2 starts at Houston, went to the front, finished second twice. Those are really good races. Got beat by Contour last time out, which is a pretty heavily bet Abel Ramirez Rodriguez horse. But if you look at that, when she cleared her non-winners at 2 conditions, this is a non-winners at 3 lifetime. She came from off the pace right here at Lone Star Park over this course, over a course rated as good, which will probably be what it'll be. This turf course, I think, will stay good all day. I don't think it'll get to firm. But that was a really impressive stalk and pounce win by Araniti. So not only do you have a mare in really good form, has tactical speed, but doesn't have to have the lead to win, I just think she's the way to go. And Cappellucci, he wins a lot of races. I have a lot of trust in him.
Yeah, I do too. He won a race again last night. He's starting to climb a little bit up the standings. This mare, is coming off a little mini break, but she has run fresh before on some occasions well.
Yeah, Cactus Blossom only finished a neck behind Araniti at Houston in March, and then came back and only got beat a neck as a favorite in April. So, and Bravo is another really good horseman here.
Yes. Cactus Blossom, to me, is really good, a second option in that race, because she's coming in, she should be tough.
Yep.
Race 8. All older fillies and mares in this one, 7/8 of a mile, the distance. You could be in for $30,000 here, as a couple of them are. You could be a non-winners of 2 races other than, or non-winners of 3 lifetimes. So a few oars in this one as well.
Yeah, one odd thing about She Sky's the Limit, who I made my Lee's Lock 6-5 on the line. When you look at her dirt form, she's won 6 of 13 races, which is absolutely amazing. Turf, only 6 for 31, which for most horses that would be a high number. But considering she's such a win machine on dirt, what was odd to me is she's only run on the dirt here once.
That is odd.
I mean,
I
that's
noticed
weird.
that too.
Yeah, 44 races in this region, and she's only ran on the dirt here once, even though her record on dirt is phenomenal, 6 out of 13. I think she's in really good form right now. Got legged up on April 27th in that front-running 7.5 furlong turf race. If she runs back to the races she typically runs on the main track, she's going to be tough to beat. She's got that speed that always has her in a position to win, and she loves to win. Karen Jacks having another really good season. Floyd Wethy, regular riders aboard. Even though her only main track race here at Lone Star Park was, her lowest figure, she's earned. But I'm not going to let that sway me one way or another anyway.
I think that was, Adeline Julia. I know from the past at least, is a pretty salty sprinter, and that was a pretty tough race. I have a lot of respect for She Sky's the Limit. And her record, just pure record-wise, is basically equal. She has earned a lot of money on the turf. She's run a lot more on the turf.
Right.
But, her dirt record is exemplary. She can do anything, really. But I'm going to try looking for bargains. I'm a sucker for horses like her. I'm a little afraid of the bounce factor. She was off for 13 months. She's the filly that was an $85,000 2-year-old in training purchase. Raced for Chad Brown and looked really promising on the grass. Then was off, from March of 24 until last month. Came back and won that race handy. Alfredo Juarez had a handful of horse under him, only reached back and hit her with the crop one time and then immediately tucked it away. That was an easy enough race. I'm not too worried about the bounce factor. Plus, she's had a half-mile breeze since. Kind of a sucker for her because I think she was potentially a really quality filly at one time and might still be. So I'm going to take her, but to me it's a very close call.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of a sucker for horses like that. I'm a sucker for horses, well, there goes that sheet. Horses with a story behind them because Fincher bought her on a digital auction for $9,500.
Yep.
9th race. Not much speed to my eye. You're the speed guru, but in this mile claiming event, doesn't appear to be much early speed in here, and we've got 2 scratches, 10 and 11.
Yeah, that like my children, Hoppin' Johns and Arkansas bred,
Yes.
and I gotta go there. Is this horse on Lasix? My PPs didn't show it, but I'd be shocked if she
Mine
wasn't.
don't show it either, and I printed them yesterday, so I have not gotten a change.
That would be a concern if she's not. The only reason he didn't run on Lasix last time is because it was a stake race.
Sure.
But every other race, he's always been on Lasix. And his races, he runs against some pretty nice Arkansas breds. Yeah. And he just, he's so consistent until the last time out in that 2-turn stake race. If you can draw a line through that, which I'm thinking he's probably back on Lasix, then you can. He's been competing at a much higher claiming price than this. The last time he was in for $5,000, he won by 12 lengths.
Yeah.
And
he wasn't facing Arkansas breds up in Hawthorne. He doesn't need Arkansas breds necessarily to perform well, especially at this level.
Right, at this level. So, and again, you got best of trainer rider teams for this, region. Yeah. So Hoppin' John, Arkansas bred. I'm going that direction.
I agree. I'm dying to try the dish Hoppin' John. Have you ever had Hoppin' John?
No.
It's black-eyed peas. It's kind of a stewy soup, one-pot dish.
Oh, wow.
I want to try it. Ab Soroka, to me, is, he's the proverbial box of chocolates. I mean, you never know what you're going to get. He clearly can't stand up on a sloppy sealed track, as those 3 Delta races show.
Mm-hmm.
But, his dirt track racing is okay, but I'm still on my man, Hoppin' John. Let's go Arkansas.
Yes.
We had an Arkansas-bred, was it Bling on the Light last night?
Yes.
Or
I think, that.
the light gray?
Yes.
He didn't perform quite as well, but he's a good Arkansas-bred. Race 10. 5/8. There's a carryover in the high 5, which we've seen on the screen. I didn't write it down, but it's like $1,300 or $1,100, I think. Fillies and mares 3 and up. Maiden special weight. Scratch one of the contenders here, the 6 Ms. Factor.
Yeah, I'm going to my best long shots here is Forever Safe. I know Andy Serling wouldn't like this filly at all because he thinks that 5/8 is a sprint specialist distance. But nevertheless,
I'm a little bit with him on that, but I trust you because you're such a master of pace and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, this horse has never – I made this horse 6-1 even though it has a lot of speed, has competitive numbers when she runs her best race, but she hasn't run since August. She was in the barn of trainer Brad Cox when she was earning those big numbers. And, so there's reasons for some people maybe to think, I can't go that direction. But those were some nice front-running turf races before tiring. The workouts, recently, the 5/8 breezes, are very strong. She looks like a filly that does have natural sprinter speed. I think the turn back, getting back to the turf for a trainer who's, hot off to a really good start, and a race also that I think is very competitive.
Yeah.
I'm going that direction.
I like that option. She's a 4-year-old. She shows really good speed. And I don't mind taking a horse, kind of like looking for bargains we talked about earlier. Coming off a layoff, sprinting, a horse with good natural speed anyway, even if it's more route speed. Mm-hmm. They're just coming back to the races. Maybe a sprint distance will suit them. And I went, though, with a firster in the 2 Belle Blaze. Calhoun and Cabrera have been very hot. This is a little bit of a pedigree pick. Lethal Legacy, the dam, was a whopping 1 for 44 on the racetrack.
Wow.
But the grandmother to Belle Blaze, named Lethal Lita, won 12 races, won the first 4 starts of her career, made $300,000. And this horse is a half-brother to Lethal Speed, who won his Gulfstream Park debut last year. So there's precocity in the pedigree. There's some speed in the pedigree. She's a 4-year-old. Decent work tab coming in. They had her at Copper Crown in Louisiana. Then they brought her here. And honestly, I think Go Purple has a chance. I didn't use her in the picks. But you got an Asmussen in here and Nancy Lynn that certainly is going to take a lot of money. There's a lot of contention, but I'm going to try a firster in this spot.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Go Purple. I mean, that was a terrific debut at Alice last summer on turf. Since then, a lot of dirt races, synthetic races at Turfway. And, the workouts, since it's Gustafson, you don't care that they're slow because he works everything slow. He'll have the rare fast work, but almost always slow.
Yeah.
So I never consider that a negative with Austin.
Yeah. And even her last work was 36th best out of 75, so that's kind of splitting the field. So
yes,
that's not too slow,
not too
especially
bad.
for a guy that doesn't ask for a lot of speed out of them. Stacy's Princess certainly has a shot on the inside off those last 2 sprints. We're kind of ignoring Asmussen's horse. To me, she's starting to run out of chances. But nonetheless, I think this might be a race, for your horse off the layoff, for good connections, or the horse I'm picking, a first-time starter with good connections. Maybe it's one where you try a little.
Yeah, I think you got to spread out in there for sure.
And by the way, Helen informs us, and we appreciate that, 1,195 and some change is the high 5 carryover. Okay, behind us, in the courtyard, the crawfish boil is ongoing. So if, it's about lunchtime, head over there, 30-pound plate or a 3-pound plate. 30 pounds would be a lot. $30 for a 3-pound plate. So if you like crawfish, which I do, head on over there. We've got 27 minutes to post for the first. Once again, we're fast and good. Good on the turf today. Rick, as always, thanks. Oh, a quick thought on the Preakness.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say, because we're short on time, journalism is going to be even money. It's always fun to pick against even money, especially when you consider the fact that he had a real taxing race just 2 weeks ago. The connections weren't sure if they were going to enter, which means he wasn't actually bouncing after that race. But they decided to ship across country to run him again. The only horse I think that might have not yet reached his peak yet is actually Steve Asmussen's horse, Clever Again. Won the Hot Springs very impressively, triple-digit buyer. All Steve talks about is how fast this colt is. And if he can make to the front, clear, Baffert's horse, I think he might turn out to be a very nice colt. So I'm picking against even money. If you like journalism, which I understand totally, don't let me talk you off the horse, but he's not going to pay much.
I might be forgetting this, but is the Preakness the one race where they talk about speed typically being an advantage?
Yes.
So there you go.
Yeah. Let's hope so. One more time.
And I noticed Steve's using Jose Ortiz on that mount. I wonder how long it's going to be before he uses his sons in some of his big races.
Yeah.
Maybe when they get a little more experience.
Yeah, Jose's 2 for 2 on this colt. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's got the regular mount.
Yeah, he's got the regular mount. So that's good.
That would be cool, though, to see. I don't know if there's ever been, that situation where a guy has that many grade 1 type horses and has sons that are riding that are capable of riding such horses. That would be an interesting development. Well, enjoy that a little bit later today, roughly 6 o'clock, give or take our time. Meanwhile, thanks a lot for looking in, and enjoy that crawfish, and good luck this afternoon.
In the event of an emergency, Lone Star Park is dedicated to ensuring the safety of our patrons.